Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to Masjid New Africa Center for Human Development's Sunday public address in Thailand. Today, we'd like to welcome back our brother, our dear brother, Brother Brandon, to the platform. Alhamdulillah. Welcome, welcome, and assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
All
Glad to
right,
be
so everyone get ready, sit back, get your popcorn, grab your tea, your coffee, uh, as we await. Um, I'm sure, inshallah, a beautiful message, beautiful knowledge that our dear brother will be sharing with us today. So, without any further delay, I again present to you Brother Brandon Jabril.
assalamu alaikum to the believers in humanity abroad. I always like to open up with I open in prayer called a Fatiha, and I'm gonna do it in Arabic and I'm gonna do it in English for the sake of those who may not know what I'm saying. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amtu alaihim. Ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. And we say Amen, or that is so. We start off translating now. I seek refuge with God from Satan, the rejected enemy. We give our praises to Allah. We say in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherished sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful. Master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those who have the way of those whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, whose portion is not wrath, who go not astray. And as I said before, we say Amen, or that is so. And I like to again greet the audience with distinguished greeting, and we say Assalamu alaikum, and which is peace be unto you, which was also the greeting that we see that was given even before Muhammad, peace be upon him. When you look in the scriptures that came before the Bible, Jesus greeted in the same greeting, and he said, "Peace be unto you." So I'm just letting it be known that Islam is not nothing new. The Arabic terms or the terminology is something new or foreign to people, but Islam in itself is not nothing new because it just simply means submission um, to the Creator, surrender, and that's how we believe we attain the true peace that only God can give. So I say, Ashahadu and la ilaha illallah, Ashahadu and Muhammadur Rasulullah. Let us say, I bear witness that there is no deity or nothing worthy of being worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creators in the heavens and the earth and everything that's between. And I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah of Arabia over 1500 years and counting is the final seal of the prophetic hood, meaning there's no other prophets to come after him. And by us saying that we believe in Muhammad, we accept all other prophets that came before him, who taught the same concept of there's only one God. In Arabic, we say La ilaha illallah. Today, I would like to address my topic would be new circumstances brings about new knowledge, and my subtopic is pushing the culture forward. So new circumstances kind of equals new knowledge and pushing the culture forward. Um, so I like to start off about, and I was thinking about how I'm gonna approach this because there's so many things I want to say, but to try to with the constraint of the time, we don't want to be um, we don't want to go too far or too long, and we can do a part two or something to this another time. But new circumstances, new knowledge. That's what I was thinking about, and pushing the culture forward. When we study history, we talking about, and I want to start talking about. with United States of America. Um, it is said when Christopher Columbus. Now, we're gonna preface this because he didn't discover uh, America or United States. Later, as we termed it, it was already people who live here who we call natives. And it's great that we cleared this up, because history has been distorted in some aspects. But when he came, one term that they used, he termed it the New World, and that it was appropriate because it was a new world, something he hadn't experienced. It was new territory, as we say, virgin territory. It was new people he hadn't seen, a new culture, all these things, and it was a new world. Um, and when I'm using this term new, it has different perspectives, but new, how I'm using it in the context of just something that's different, not so much as something better or worse. It's just a matter of perception. But I'm using it in the term loose, I'm using it in the context. It was just something different. But and now when we speak of new world, even though I was talking about physical, the land, the culture, and things of this nature, um, it all can be also can be new ideas. New ideas. When we was younger, we heard people say they like if you just sitting there brainstorming it, or they may say he's in his own little world. So that's kind of like a mental thing. So this new world can be physical, like I say, it can be mentally, um, and it's just new way of doing things, new ideas, new concepts. I want to give an analogy of a hammer, and when we think of a hammer, um, we can use a hammer different ways. A hammer can be used to beat something, like you want to beat a nail in something, or you can use it to take the nail out. So again, that's just showing you that you can use this tool, as we're saying, um, the hammer. You can use it for many different purposes, depending on how you want to use it. Again, new circumstances, new knowledge is the topic, and that's what I'm trying to really bring to the table today. Um, so we see in technology on social media, um, we seeing you can learn, in the past, and we still have it, like cookbooks. People can learn how to cook by using cookbooks and getting recipes. But now that we have technology, my wife uses a lot. She goes on TikTok and learn different recipes. We see different forms of entertainment um, on social media, and some of it is good, some of it is bad. But my point again, since we have this mode of social media, technology has changed. We can use these things. It's different now. The things that we're exposed to with technology being um, something new, and the different even different phones, and all these different things that we've seen have uh, being pushed forward, and we're seeing a change versus 20 and 30 years ago. Again, relationships. We are learning different things now as far as relationship. People are talking about communication. We use this word toxic. We are trying to build better and foster better relationships. We still have a lot of isms, racism, classism, and we are putting these things on the table where once, it wasn't even really talked about in certain contexts. Even when you go in your jobs, you have different policies now that you can't say certain things or you get in trouble. That is be considered sexist or racist, and even if you're not talking to this certain person, somebody can overhear you and you can get in trouble. So all these things, child labor laws, these things are to protect the interests of the human being, and these come from trial and error and circumstances that happened in the past. And then, hey, we want to do something about it, so we have new knowledge, and new information. We are trying to attack these different things in certain ways. Um, we learn also about different disorders. Um, Mental health is a big thing. We didn't used to talk about these things. Traumatic experience, how it affect us, especially in the African American experience. Once upon a time, it was taboo for us to get counseling, so we wasn't trying to get counseling. Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm not crazy. But now we're getting more into that, uh, trying to deal with certain issues that we may have been traumatized from the past. So all these different things as we march into the future, we're seeing, we're putting these things on the table and we're addressing them, and we're trying to really push the culture forward and become better human beings in many aspects. Uh, Also, working out. I like to do my jump rope physically. Jump rope has so many benefits. I do that a lot. I even put it on social media in hopes of also motivating others to exercise. Trying to eat a little healthier. Now we have juices. A lot of people juice. We have a place right by where we live as well. So it's black owned. I really like that. I spend money with them. So trying to really better ourselves. And like I said before, in the past, a lot of us wasn't privy to this information, this new knowledge that we're seeing, this new understanding that we're having, and people, it's right at your fingertips. You used to have encyclopedias, all these different books. A lot of us may, we didn't have a library or anything of that nature back then. So we didn't have this information. But now it's at your fingertips. You can look on your phone and see all these different things. So again, new knowledge, new circumstances. We're just trying to push the culture forward. And the more we have more challenges, we have more problems, and we have to think about how different ways that we can try to solve these different problems that we have. And Allah is going to show us the answer, and show us how to think about these things, put our heads together, and then how we can address these things, whether as a whole or individually. And so we have to see new ways of doing things as we get as these different problems arise. We have to see new ways of trying to address things, because some things that we haven't addressed in the past, and it just keeps coming up. It don't go away. So we got to think and figure out how can we address these situations that will help us become better human beings overall. But one thing about when you trying to make this change from certain things we may have been doing, whether it's our family, whether it's our culture, how we was raised. A lot of times we get a lot of pushback because it's kind of like breaking the tradition, and we can get a lot of pushback, and it can be negative sometimes, and sometimes it can be positive, but sometimes it can be negative. Where am I going with this? When the prophets, peace be upon all of them, when they went to the people and to tell them that there is only one God, la ilaha illallah, it became a problem. And they got a lot of pushback, so much so that people wanted to persecute them and their followers, and also even want to go so far as to try to kill them, or just kill the mission, period. So the people suffered a lot because they wasn't going with the so-called cultural norms that has been established for all those years. So um, you got to expect that when you're thinking about new ways to do things, you can get some pushback, and it may not be to that level, but that's going to come with it. You're going to get criticism. You might get ostracized for certain things. So you got to really be firm uh, on your purpose. And as believers, as Muslims, we know, especially as reverse, this can happen. Fortunately, I was blessed. A lot of my family members didn't really push back on me because I didn't grow up. I mean, I wasn't born into the faith. I wasn't born a believer or a Muslim. So I'm a revert. So a lot of my family are Christians, but a lot of they didn't push back, and they respected and still respect what I believe. But that's not the case for a lot of brothers and sisters who come from that culture and that background of Christianity. So this is very important. So you have to really be connected and pray to Allah and be patient, but stay firm in what you believe. And Allah's promise is to protect the believers. Moving on, I want to say uh, from another level, even in religion, even us as believers, we can get pushback from things that we have been taught, uh, whether we read it in a book, um, and it's a certain way from maybe the scholarly world of old. We say the Islamic world, and we may look at certain things when we read it and see it differently. And if we express this to some people, it's new to them, and we've been following it a certain logic all our life. We may get pushback from that. We may get pushback from that. And I'm gonna give some examples. So I want to be clear on that. You know, we have different sayings of the prophet, different sayings of the prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, all the sayings of the prophet Muhammad, or that we hear people say, are not authentic. And most of us, we know this. In Bukhari, in the tradition of Bukhari, who compiled a lot of the sayings, one of the things it is said is that the prophet, peace be upon him, say, before you uh, recite or quote any hadith, consider it in the light of the Quran. So all the believers agree about the Quran. We know that the Quran is the word of Allah, and Allah promises to protect the Quran. However, He didn't promise to protect the hadith. So some of the hadiths, um, it go through a chain of narrative. It's a science it goes through. So we just can't quote it and just leave it like it is without understanding in the light of the Quran, understanding the circumstances, understanding who it was talking to. So it's different layers and things that we got to consider before we quote uh, the hadith and just leave it out there just like that. But one of them I want to bring to the attention is when the prophet was talking about innovation. And a lot of Muslims, we like to quote this hadith and said, and in the light of saying that don't innovate, every innovation leads to hellfire. Now, what the prophet was saying is true in the context of not adding on things that has already been established, uh, that something that's bad, and on that level, and they try to take away things that's already been established by the Quran and his Sunnah or his example. However, what I'm saying, the new knowledge, the new understanding, there were innovations after the prophet, but there were good innovations. So I'm gonna give an example, such as Uthman, when the two Adans were instituted during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It was only one Adan, who Bilal was the Adan caller. But after the Prophet passed, the Ummah started growing. It started growing because Muslims was doing dawah to many different areas outside of Arabia, and so the Ummah started growing. So when that means that when things change and evolve, we have to make an adjustment. So here comes that's the reason for the two Aduns um, being instituted, because now we are growing. Like everywhere Wasi at, everything was growing. It's just I can also liken it to like a baby in the womb. The fetus grows. It grows and it grows, and after a while, it has to be born because it becomes too big for that area or that womb that the mother is caring. No different from when you're in a business. You might have a small business, but you want to grow your business, so you got to expand. You got to get more workers, so you have to have more products. If you're in an apartment, you want to grow. You have a wife, you have children. The more children, now I have to have a bigger space for them. So it's that same concept and analogy with Islam, and Islam is vast, it's growing. It's not. It started out as a small thing, but it's always growing. And Allah tell us in the Quran when the people are going to enter in crowds, and Islam is still growing. Alhamdulillah. So this is what I mean: new knowledge and new circumstances. Not looking at it and taking, what that hadith says is face value, and that we cannot make adjustments and do things positive in an innovation in a way, long as it doesn't steal away from what Islam actually has instituted, like our five prayers. We can't add anything or take anything away from the salat that's established, you know. But again, we can do extra prayers. So, like duas, we have duas that we can do, which, individual prayer. But at the same time, we got duas that we have in books that's, or the Quran, you have duas that we can say, and we also can make up our own duas, our personal duas. So that's the beauty of Islam. Like I said, new knowledge, new circumstances. Uh, I was listening to, and before I get to that point, because I was going to say something about Imam Dirk Muhammad, another situation. The Prophet was telling this brother, and I'm just paraphrasing because I don't want to just, I know I'm on a time schedule. Um, this brother was getting ready to go to another area. He was Muslim. He wasn't in Saudi Arabia. He was going to another area, and the Prophet asked him a question before he went back. He said, "How will you make your decisions?" And the brother said, "With the Quran." He said, What if you don't find it in the Quran?" He said, "With your example." He said, "What if you don't find it with my example?" He said, "I will use ijtihad." Now, Muslims who are familiar, you hear something in their word, ijtihad. Jihad meaning a struggle to understand something, the best to your knowledge and your ability, you know. So look what the Prophet told him. Uh, if you can't find it in the Quran, you can't really specify it in the Sunnah or my example. Use your best understanding here. Prophet told him, he answered correctly. He answered correctly. So again, that's showing that again how we got to keep getting new knowledge, and because it's going to be circumstances. Well, we're going to have to use our best judgment with to the best of our ability. And Imam W. Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him and forgive him his sins. One time I was listening to a lecture he gave called Islam about the common sense religion. And what he was addressing, he said, everything has potential for growth. And he said, if that's the case, then he said, don't common sense have a potential for growing and evolving? And I thought about that because that's something I never thought about it. Common sense growing. He said, so common sense 20 years ago may be a baby. I mean, common sense 20 years ago would be a baby in this time. And what he was basically saying, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't, what's common sense 20 years ago wouldn't be applicable to this day and time, because now we're faced with so many circumstances and so many situations that uh, we have to use more knowledge and more information and think on our feet versus back then and whatever other time that we 20 years ago. Like I said, this in the past, because now we are marching on into the future. Um, Certain things I don't think our brothers and sisters during the time of the life of the prophet understood that we understand today. Uh, they didn't understand about, the child in the womb. They didn't understand about what it was a sperm drop. They didn't understand about atoms, because Science had to catch up to the Quran, and these things hadn't been put in book form. It hadn't been explored to that degree. So they had strong faith, but a lot of things that they didn't understand because they wasn't privy to that knowledge that we understand today. And to make my point, it was a situation that happened during the time of the prophet, peace be upon him. And this is in conjunction with the ayat, I would say, about the black thread and the white thread fasting, um, from the black thread to the white thread. It was a brother who misunderstood that verse and went home and put a black thread and a white thread on his pillow. And some of y'all brothers and sisters may have read about this situation and heard about it, what this brother did. And he went to the prophet and he was telling him that, he was, I guess, waiting on the black thread and the white thread to change, so to speak. And the prophet said, this is not what that verse was talking about. And like I said, the brother just didn't understand what that mean. He took that literally. So we know today what that was talking about, from darkness outside to the light. Imam Muhammad took that even another step. He said, you know, eat and drink, for as your understanding. So the darkness of your intellect will be lit up with knowledge. Just keep eating and drinking, until that done disappears. So he took that to another level. And that's what I'm saying. The new knowledge and the new circumstances, because he was studious and he was studying these concepts. Like today, a lot of us study Arabic grammar. A lot of Muslims who come from the Middle East, they don't know Arabic grammar. They know Tajweed, which is great. And a lot of us, and we know Tajweed as well, but a lot of Muslims may not understand Arabic grammar, and that's where a lot of times we have a, another. How do I want to say it? We have another advantage in understanding the Quran, and we seeing it in a different light. And it's not bad. It's not. It's not nothing bad, negative or positive. I mean, nothing bad or evil, or just because you see things different from somebody else. It's just that's another layer, and that's going to my point again. Uh, we are gaining new knowledge, and we're seeing it through a different lens than versus someone who just probably been thinking and conditioned. I just want to do the recitation, and that's enough. We want both, or we should want both. Another example, Imam W. Muhammad, he taught in a language where his people understood, and that goes into the Quran. I'm bringing this up because he got criticized too by a lot of different Muslims who were saying he was bid'ah. Now, I used that word earlier about innovation, and they were saying these things about him, which wasn't true, but they were saying this because he was coming from a different aspect and different insights in the Quran that wasn't previously taught on by a lot of other people. He was a student of the Bible and the Quran, so he used to break both of them down. Some he said too. He said we're going to remake the world. He said words make people, which is exactly right. All this is Quran. When you study the Quran, the things he is saying is in line with the Quran. He's just rephrasing it and reshaping it in a different way from a different perspective, but it's the same language. And those who study the Deen, we will see that clearly. So now, we had a book. I mean, it's now we coming up with, they compiling the commentary on Imam W. Muhammad, which is just as the same as the school of thought. Um, Now, I want to say something about these schools of thoughts as well, because again, that could be another criticism, because so many people hold fast to the four main schools of thoughts. I did some research on these schools of thoughts, and I want to use the word fiqh. So fiqh, which comes from its jurisprudence and Islamic law, and that has levels because a lot of times we just look at it on one level, but we use understanding every day. That's what fiqh is, deep understanding. But going back to my point, those who studied the Arabic language and studied the grammar, you will see that fiqh is really the word fiqh um, means understanding, but in its root form, it means a temporary understanding. And this is very important because your understanding about things are going to change as you continue to evolve. That's why when we read the Quran, every Ramadan, we get a different understanding because you are changing, you evolving as a human being as you're supposed to. And it helps push you forward. It's going back to pushing the culture forward. So when you go back and study that history, the four schools of thought, they did a great job. And we still can use some of the things they said today if it's prevalent and it makes sense. But it came about not that they got together and said, hey, we're just going to create the school of thought. It just came about from circumstances, basically, circumstances that was happening. A lot of Islam was spreading. People had questions. They was trying to figure out certain things that wasn't clear to them in the Quran or the Sunnah. So it was different brothers trying to explain these things to the best of their ability. And a lot of times they had to use ijtihad. And they always caution, we using the Quran, that's your first source, the Sunnah, the example of the prophet is your next source. And we just trying to give you our opinion as best as we can based on what we studied. But if even if what we said doesn't, still do your own studying because, hey, reject what we say if it don't fall in line with the Quran. So they was just trying to safeguard themselves because they know they didn't want to mislead people, even though their intentions right. They weren't trying to even mislead people, with the information. But that was born out of situations and circumstances that was going on at that time, and it was never meant to be a golden standard. It was never meant to be a golden standard. And I'm saying that in the aspect or the light of a lot of our brothers still hold that and sisters hold that as these are main schools, four schools of thoughts, and you should follow them to the T and nobody else. But history shows we had other scholars too as well, but these was the more popular ones. And like I said again, it's no problem if you want to follow one of these madhabs. Um, that's your opinion, your prerogative. But if we're trying to make this just like it's a gold standard, which is another meaning of the word, the root word means to be gold. I was just thinking about that, making that connection. Then that's where we get into another situation if we are trying to make this a gold standard. And if you don't follow them, then you're wrong. Well, that's not the case. And this is why during the time of Imam W. Muhammad, I heard the other imams like Imam Yahya speak about this when they went and spoke to the Grand Sheikh. And he asked the question, he said, what madhab should we follow? He said, don't follow any one of those madhabs. Don't even follow him, the Grand Sheikh talking. He said, take the Quran and apply it to your condition in America. So this is something that's very important about applying this Quran to our condition in America and to your circumstances. Because again, how you see it in your circumstances, the Quran never changes. Let's be clear on that. The Quran never changes. But situations and circumstances change. Situations and circumstances changing, and you are changing. So you are growing and developing. So we've got to be mindful of that uh, as well. In the Quran, it tells us to think critically. We want to think critically, and we want to keep growing and taking this to another level. A lot of times when we do rituals, we never ask the question why. Why do we do this? Why do we do it this way? Who is this addressing? Because we got commentary, as I said earlier, which is another Arabic, tafsir. So that's what the Imam was doing, making commentary on different verses of the Quran and speaking on these things. Uh, and we ask Allah to guide us into, with this light of this Quran. Um, I want to use two more sayings to also push my point further about gaining more clarity and understanding with this new knowledge and new information. There's another saying of the Prophet, and a lot of Muslims we like to use this as well, um, about like rolling up your pants when you get ready to pray, rolling up your pants leg. I mean your pants so they won't drag the ground. And the Hadith does talks about don't let your pants or the robes that they have drag on the ground. But the end part of that hadith was what a lot of people failed to elaborate on. It said, "Don't let it drag out of pride." So that's the essence of it. Don't let it drag out of pride and conceit. So when the prophet quoted this, peace be upon him, Abu Bakr said, "Well, I let my pants just drag," because he said, "Yeah, but you're not doing it out of pride and conceit." So that's what the hadith is hitting on. Like you got to be doing it with a certain mentality. So if you're not doing it with a certain mentality, and I'm not saying you got to let your pants drag, but they saying it's like a sin if you do this. But what is the reasoning behind it? New knowledge, new circumstances. Another thing about the beard, we hear people talk about the beard a lot. And I read this and it said if you don't have a beard, that's a sin in Islam. And I'm like, hold up. Why did the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, encourage the Muslims to wear the beard at that time? One of the reasons he said, don't be like the unbelievers or the polytheists, the mushrikeen. Don't be like them. Because everybody looked alike on the continent. They all wore turbans. Most of them wore those. So everybody looked alike. It's not like in America where we got different cultures and diversity and we all look different. So it was just to differentiate them. You know, that's how I see it. So a person may see that different. So again, it's about having that understanding and what was going on. Why did he say that at that time? And to take that further, what does the Quran say? Um, we follow the messenger, the example, who has a beautiful pattern of conduct, and also he stands on an exalted character. So it has nothing to do. It's nothing wrong with wearing a beard, but the Quran is not addressing anything about physical. It's talking about his character, which is not gender based. So that's what is really pushing toward, not so much how he looked or how he dressed or how he carried himself, because we can get caught up in this so-called culture that's presented in the line of Islam. Like I said, you can wear these things if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't lose sight of what being a Muslim is about, which is taqwa. It's more things that's intrinsic in your character more than anything. So, and the last thing I wanted to address, because we talk about pictures too, as well, and scholars are debating these things now. They're just debating these things about pictures and things being around. And one thing I thought about as far as the pictures or the graven images, first of all, they didn't have cameras or anything of that nature, but it was talking about graven images. But what was going on at that time? What were they making images of and for? A lot of them making images is they was worshiping the images. So it's not so much as so that was the underlying reasoning. We're not worshiping images. Like we might take pictures with our family on Facebook, and things of this nature. So our intentions is not, well, we trying to worship these things. So again, that's at your discretion. I'm just putting this information out there. Just like cigarettes, back then it was considered makruh. This is school of thought. A lot of them considered it because it wasn't clear in the Quran. Some of the reason is because we didn't know the information about that. Cigarettes cause cancer for the person that's smoking, and secondhand, a person that's just secondhand smoke. So how do you see it now? That's something to think about. Back then it was a gray area. They didn't have the information that we had, but now we have information about what can happen. How do you see that now? So that's something to think about. I wouldn't never tell nobody how to look at anything. I'm just putting out this new knowledge and just showing how a lot of times we didn't think about these things. Um, so again, we keep studying, inshallah, we keep learning, we keep growing, and we shouldn't fear thinking on what we read, and just because other scholarly work has been done, we should read those things and appreciate everything and everyone who came before us. We stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say. It's not to say that we are better than anyone. We're just trying to take it to another level. Whatever has been left that's beneficial, and we got to look at things with a critical eye because, like I said, a lot of things was said about the prophet, the history, and we got to make sure we consider these things in the light of the Quran. Think about why it was said. Think about the circumstances. Think about what was going on before we come to just a hasty conclusion and just regurgitate things that we just constantly hear other people say and study for ourselves, which we're supposed to do anyway. And I would like to end with a few more quotes, and this is a hadith that's in Bukhari. So the prophet said, peace be upon him, the best people are those of my generation, and then those who will come after them, with, in parentheses, after next generation, and then those who will come after them. I'm going to read that one more time. The prophet said, the best people are those of my generation, and then those who will come after them, which is the next generation, and then those who will come after them, the next generation. So that's something, go study. If you hadn't read that, go think about that. I encourage you. And this is the quote from the farewell speech. I'm just quoting a portion of it at the end because he said a lot of things in the farewell speech that we're still dealing with today, because the prophet had insight into what he was looking in his community, and we're still dealing with these different things today. One part of it, and this is at the end, and he said, and may the last ones uh, hear about my words be better than those who listen to me directly. May the ones who are not here, not present, hearing me talk about these things, may they be better than the ones who are listening to me directly. This is something he said in his farewell speech. So that's just some food for thought I want us to think about. And I pray that we keep striving, learning, growing, and studying these Islamic sciences. And I see we doing great things. I'm proud of the communities abroad. We having our own Ikra voice, Ikra. This. I mean, this is powerful. We didn't grow up. We don't have Islamic schools like it used to be, Sister Clara Muhammad schools. So, English is our first language. So we're seeing these things. We are evolving. We're trying to change these things. And we're having more talks at the masjids about health, about business. So we're bringing this stuff, and it's coming together because we're seeing the need for it. And may Allah continue to reward all those of us who make sacrifices and trying to push this thing forward. And I pray that I said some. I mean, I pray that Allah, that I said, if I said anything wrong, may Allah forgive me for it. If I said anything right, we give all praise to Allah. I like to humbly thank Masjid New Africa, Imam Tyree, for even allowing me this opportunity. And Sister Latifah, she's a great host, and all the community, Muslims, and just humanity abroad. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, brother, as always, for those beautiful reflections. And as you said, you invited us to go back, study the religion, research, do our homework. We'd like to encourage all of us to continue doing what you just said, inshallah. So thank you, Brother Jabril. Let me see if there are any questions. No questions, but we do have a comment from our dear brother Anthony Abdul Haq. He sends the greetings of Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
All right. So again, Brother Brendan, I would like for you, we didn't do it at the beginning, but I'd like for you to be able to tell us again. We know that you are a husband, a father, community worker, a public speaker, a renowned author. Would you like to elaborate on the projects that you are working on and continue to work on, inshallah?
Yes. So we said it in the past. I already wrote. This is my first book, my first self-published book. The Autobiography of Grand, which stands for Giving Reality and No Nonsense. It's about my life just growing up, as a young boy and as a teenager, and the power of education and different trials and tribulations that I had actually faced. And it's on Amazon. So, if somebody want to purchase my book, I sold a good amount of copies. And we have people who commented about the book on Amazon. So if you want to see that as well. Also, right now I'm working on.
You know what, Brother Brandon? Let me interject real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you on the bestsellers list? Because we talked about that the last time.
Hey,
if you aren't on the bestsellers list,
mm-hmm.
the New York Times list, then we haven't done our duty to support you as a dear brother in our community.
I don't think I'm on the New York Times or the bestsellers, but hey,
but we're working on it.
Yes, we working on it. Thank you, Sister Latifah. We keeping it pushing.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I did get my copy. I meant to tell you that.
For you too.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And next time we're in the same city, I definitely will have you sign that, autograph that for me. I do appreciate it. But I'm a verified seller. I can go pull up the date. I think it was right in July, right after your presentation. So as a matter of fact, I'm being humble, but I did get 2 copies.
Oh, so man.
I'm trying to push you. I'm trying to help us get there.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy it too.
I did. So I did. Alhamdulillah. But please continue with your other ventures.
Yeah,
and let me show the our listening audience again what the book looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let me see that available on Amazon. Yeah. And again, the title of the book, Brother Brandon.
Autobiography of Grand, and the Grand is an acronym, and it stands for Giving Reality and No Nonsense.
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. Here we are. There we go. Right there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Right. You're very welcome. Alhamdulillah.
And a few other projects I'm working on. But I sent you a picture I had of my shirt. The Quran is not a freestyle; it's a lifestyle. I'm working on a booklet with that. And I teach the Arabic grammar as well, and I got a lot of young students and young brothers, and I want to take that also to another level and do it with Zoom. But Been producing with students by the will of Allah. You know, they know how to read, translate the Quran, understand what it's saying for themselves instead of just depending on commentary. So, but that book is coming out. My booklet will be out real soon, and also we're looking toward next year. Me and my wife working on publishing our book together. It's called
Mhm.
Muslim and Becoming Muslim. I know you really like that, Sister Latifah.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And besides that, I got some schools lined up to speak to as well. I go back and speak to high schools and colleges. So supposed to go. A school contacted me to speak to their students. I think I'm supposed to do that in January, and I'm supposed to also speak to Prairie View A&M University. So
Alhamdulillah.
that's what I have, and I used to go there before. So I have these in the works. So inshallah, I'm just like I said, trying to push, uh, these things forward. Whatever help we can be to humanity. So I love going to speak to the students because they are our future.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Alhamdulillah. Well, listen, then you're doing just what the topic of your title, of your presentation today, pushing
Mhm.
the culture forward and
Pushing.
working with our youth. Alhamdulillah.
Mhm.
Alhamdulillah. All right, then. Well, Brother Jabril, it's always a blessing to have you on the platform. Again, you're no stranger here, and you, again, are always welcome. We so appreciate you.
Thank you so much, sister.
All right. And by the next time that you present, because I know you're on the schedule,
Mhm.
um, we need to be on that list, right?
Oh
Inshallah.
yeah. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, then. Well, thank you again.
Thank you
And
too.
send the greetings of Assalamu alaikum to you.
Okay. Well, alaikum assalam to you.
All right. So, if our listening audience would just stay tuned for just a few brief announcements. As always, we thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere else. Please join us every Friday at 1:30 for our Juma prayer and every Sunday at 12:30 for our public address in Thailand. As always, we appreciate any and all donations. We are just so humbled by any and all donations. No donation is too small as we are a 501c3, and your donations help us to continue doing the outreach efforts in our communities. You can mail in a check or money order to 7610 Highway 6 in Hitchcock, Texas, 77563. You may make a donation via PayPal at paypal.me/MasjidNewAfrica or via Cash App at $Masjid New Africa. We also um, invite those that are in the New Africa area. Um, Please join us on site and at the masjid Thursday nights at 6:30 until around 8 p.m. for our Quranic study class. And again, this is on site only at the masjid and will not be, as we say, televised. We also ask that you subscribe to our pages, our social media pages, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us at Masjid New Africa. Please look for the colorful logo. And we also, right here, this one is the one we've all been waiting for, inshallah. This is the fourth Quranic Symposium. It will be held in Houston, Texas, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. That's next weekend, inshallah. The theme is utilizing Quranic concepts for human affairs. It's a call to engage, act, and impact. Please register online. You can scan the QR code. You can also go to Islamic, ISLAMIC, LI.org for further information. Sponsored in part by Camp Khalil and Masjid Warquddin Muhammad. The symposium highlights, let me first say, it's an all, the panel is all female. So you're really going to be in for a treat, inshallah. It's an immersive Quranic experience, engaging to contemporary issues to impact change, led again by a full panel of Muslim women, leaders, scholars, and students of Quran. And as I mentioned before, it is not a sisters only symposium. It is a symposium for the entire family. It is just presented from a panel, again, of sisters, Muslim women, leaders, scholars, and students of Quran. Some of the highlights will be Quranic Culture Night, intensive Quranic Arabic courses, just dynamic panel presentations, a fundraising banquet, vending opportunities are available, the Iqra Voice Quran competition. There's something again for everyone. Some of the sisters again presenting, and inshallah, I have the latest flyer. Sister Shahida Sharif, Dr. Jeanette Habibullah, Sister Rashida Muslim, Sister Charlotte Shahid, Dr. Mona Islam, Sister Ndidi Okakpu, Sister Halima de Oliveira, Dr. Daia Farouk, Sister Hanan Furqan, Dr. Obeida Abdur Rakib, and Sister Suya Haq, inshallah. So you don't want to miss it. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention our banquet speakers, our dear sister Anisa Dawan presenting and giving the opening address, and our dear sister Dr. Jamila Karim giving the keynote address. So don't meet us there, beat us there, inshallah. And again, you can go to islamicli.org for further information. Again, on behalf of, I will say, Imam Wazir Ali, Masjid Warquddin Muhammad, and various other hosts. Again, let me mention real quickly, part of the event will be held at Masjid WDM, and the other part will be held at the Istanbul Conference Center. So again, you can go to Masjid Warquddin Muhammad's Facebook page. You can go to Masjid New Africa's Facebook page, even maybe, yeah, at Masjid New Africa, Masjid Warquddin Muhammad, and the Islamic Learning Institute. So again, we thank you, and please join us next week in Houston for this beautiful symposium, inshallah. On behalf of Masjid New Africa Center for Human Development, the resident Imam Tyree Elamine Boyd, the community, and the believers, we would like to again say thank you for joining us. We pray that Allah keeps us, blesses us, and rewards us, inshallah. Thank you for joining us again. Assalamu alaikum.